television highlights of the news of yesteryear.
Woodrow Wilson's War for Peace. At Princeton, New Jersey, Woodrow Wilson, 28th President of the United States, votes in primaries of 1914. War has broken out in Europe while Wilson pleads for peace. At Princeton University, which he once headed, the ex-governor of New Jersey vows that over here we'll not be embroiled in trouble over there. His ballot cast for peace, Wilson's on his way back to Washington. St. Louis, Missouri, 1915. The Democratic Convention draws to a close and Wilson arrives to accept his renomination for president. At Long Branch, Wilson and wife, the former Mrs. Norman Galt, wave to admiring crowds. Wilson wins on slogan, "He kept us out of war." Capitol Hill, April 2nd, 1917. The president who prayed for peace asks that Congress recognize the existence of a state of war between the United States and Germany. 4 days later in the White House, he signs the bill to make the world safe for democracy. Highlight in history, Wilson himself is blindfolded at the famous fishbowl to draw number 258 in the wartime draft. With Secretary of War Newton D. Baker, he watches embarkation of America's first expeditionary force. Soldiers of 1917 set sail for France. Waving goodbye to Broadway, they're off to the Argonne, Belleau Wood, Chateau Thierry, and the Marne. Over there, American guns cover advancing doughboys and beat back German aggressors in a long-lasting tussle of trenches. Over here, down Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, President Wilson leads Red Cross parade. To aid war wounded, he appears at Griffith Stadium with his wife to attend first ball game in 2 years. Ball he autographs is later auctioned off for $3,000. With war's end in sight, these monkey shines are welcome relief to the crowd. The president says, "Play ball." November 11th, 1918, Germany surrenders. There's armistice in France. The peace that Wilson promised comes again after 2 years of war. A happy nation hails the end of hostilities and hate. But war is not over for Wilson. Paris, France, December 1918, he comes to peace conference against his nation's wishes. Among those to greet him is General Pershing. Then, in brilliant Hall of Mirrors, first president to leave American soil sits with delegates of allied nations to sign Pact of Peace and launch ill-fated League of Nations. On liner George Washington in February 1919, he returns to a nation glad to have him home, but hostile to his hopes of peace everlasting under a council of nations. His last chance is the people. His appeal is nationwide. In the Northwest, he begins his futile tour, from town to town, state to state, by train and car. In Bismarck, North Dakota, thousands cheer his courage and shake his hand, but few heed his words. He spans the nation speaking no ill and warned by doctors that he must rest. His wife is always with him, but success is not. In car given him on his last birthday, the ailing ex-president sits with his wife. His high hopes doomed, he's ill and tired. In this house, February 3rd, 1924, he dies in disappointment, mourned by those who would not listen to his dreams. President and Mrs. Calvin Coolidge pay their last respects, as do Secretary of State Charles E. Hughes and wife. But his long-mourned passing does not mean death to his high-held hopes of peace. He was wronged in his time, but our time may yet fulfill the dreams of Woodrow Wilson.
To London docks through London locks. 1929, London becomes a seaport.
Lady Ritchie closes the switch that opens locks. Ocean travel to Britain ends no more in Liverpool and trip by train to London. 3 years in building at a cost of £2.5 million sterling, London locks open the Thames to the mightiest of luxury liners, and England's most historic city becomes Britain's proudest port.
The writer and his dogs. Famed author of Lad, a Dog, Albert Payson Terhune in the 1920s shares his Pompton Lakes home with pets. Dogs, wrote Terhune, are the greatest examples of faithfulness ever known. His collies give him plenty of inspiration, but little chance to write it down. For the moment, anyhow.
The Maid from Rockland, Maine. Here's actress Maxine Elliott, who got top Broadway billing in the early 1900s. In the middle 20s, she's off for the Riviera and retirement. For Maxine, the show's over, but the memory lingers on.
Short dictatorship of Huey Long. At the peak of his political plundering, here's Huey Long showing how he worked his way to Baton Rouge. On the Share the Wealth platform, he's presidential timber at pre-convention time in 1935. But in September, reign of the Louisiana leader comes to a noisy climax in hail of assassins' bullets. The fire they fought with ice. Lansing, Michigan, December 11th, 1934. In sub-zero weather, flames consume Hotel Kerns, Lansing landmark for generations. These crumbling walls mean destruction and death, as more than 200 are trapped in the inferno. Many jump to seeming safety in this ice-clogged river, only to crash to death or drown in freezing waters. Spectators are stunned as firemen battle the blaze with water that turns to ice. Cars that brought guests to a rendezvous with death or wreckage underneath tons of fallen masonry. The hotel is a total loss, but more tragic still, in the blackened and frozen ruins are 100 dead.
A wedding and then war. April 1938, and this is King Zog of Albania waiting to receive a wife. Count Ciano is here to add luster to the ceremony and offer Italy's best wishes to the bridal pair. Albania welcomes its friend. April 27th, and crowds celebrate the wedding day. Albania's King Zog presents his queen, the half-American Countess Geraldine Aponier of Hungary. No reason here to fear the future. Tiny Albania is a happy kingdom paying homage to its queen. Albania's army marches for the royal couple. But 12 months later, these columns are crushed by Il Duce's dread legions of destruction. Count Ciano's friendship is mockery. Time soon runs out on Albania. For its rulers, the honeymoon is over in war.
Hey, what's everybody gawking at? What's up there that's so interesting? Why, it's nothing but skywriting. But this is November 28th, way back in 1922, and America's first skywriting is something new on the skyline of New York. First message is Hello, USA. Letters are 10,000 feet up and half a mile wide. Gaping New Yorkers don't even watch where they're going. Pilot turning plane into pen is British Captain Cyril Turner, rolling and riding sky high.
The deep-crowned cloche is the hat of the moment at a millinery show in Chicago back in 1926. It's been revived since, but it still makes you think of Clairvaux, the Charleston, and flappers. So do those low-waisted, high-skirted dresses. These were the halcyon days for millinery before the threat of hatlessness. The jet-trimmed satin helmet looks like a fugitive from the football gridiron. So does the model.
Quest for golfer's gold. Gene Sarazen tees off a 1930 professional golfers match at Fresh Meadows and chips to the cup in battle for golfing's highest crown. Armour's game is sure and steady hole after hole, but Gene Sarazen matches him stroke for brilliant stroke. They're all even after 35 holes of near-perfect golf. On the 36th, Armour sinks a 12-foot putt and wins one up. Top professional in 1930, Tommy Armour.
From Catalina to California, or sink. William Wrigley's $40,000 makes swimmers like Norman Ross the favorite. Lottie Schammel, taking the plunge for women, and a lot of others like George Young, not even considered, grease up for a 22-mile swim from Catalina Island to the coast of California. The tide's out and swimmers in, and the battle against surf and swells is on. This swimmer doesn't need that rescue boat. It's ladies first, as Mrs. Schammel takes an early lead, but soon tired, drops out. Strong-stroking Norman Ross, the favorite, leads the way. As night falls, he's still swimming for a landfall. Next afternoon, in hospital room, winded but winner, lone entrant to finish race, George Young, 17 years old and $25,000 rich.